All right, hello, welcome back, everybody. PayPal and Patreon are down below if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. And apologies for any audio glitches. My mic is starting to fail after about 8 years. So we're just doing a quick rundown this time of the issue of what's going to happen with Russia's nuclear arsenal when Russia, at this point, inevitably implodes. As many people are worried and panicking about how there's going to be 30, 40, 50 new countries that are all going to have nukes, when that is the farthest thing from the truth as possible. There are going to be, in all likelihood, a grand total of two, one being a shrunken form of Russia, and the other being some conglomerate form of Siberia. As this breakup map that I have up on the screen now is the, at least in rough terms, most likely shattering outcome, as opposed to all of the maps that you'll usually see floating around on Twitter and Reddit that people are basing these fears off of, most of which are really ridiculous, doing things such as lumping all of the Caucasus nations together, despite the fact that they have a lot of issues with each other and would never actually do that. Others that almost just declare every oblast and republic in Russia to automatically be an independent country, or in a better description, I guess, just stamp across the map the borders of old medieval feudal kingdoms from 600 years ago. And then the other major aspect or talking point to the fears are usually phrased in the manner of nothing like this has ever happened before. And that is also completely false because this has happened before. You remember there was this thing called the Soviet Union that's dissolved about 30 years ago, a little bit more, and the scattered nuclear arsenal in that particular situation was relocated securely. While even within the USSR, most of the nukes were located within Russia itself. There were nukes left over in Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan after the Soviet Union dissolved. Then, apart from that, we have to deal with the fact that people seem to have this weird idea about nukes, like they're some that anyone in any parts of a particular country that has them can just pull them out of thin air somehow. That is not the case. They are physical objects that exist in a specific location. They're not just in a pocket dimension that anyone in a particular country can just pull them out of, or broken off pieces of said country. And in Russia's case, they have nukes located in Murmansk, Karelia, Yaroslavl, Kaliningrad, Kaluga, the Engels Air Force Base in Saratov, Krasnoyarsk, Amur, Kamchatka, Altai Krai, and formerly Orenburg. However, that facility has been dialed down. So after running through those locations, you'll notice that none of them are anywhere in the smaller, likely to break away republic regions. And by all means, that is by design on Russia's part. So as I said, in reality, there would be a grand total of one extra country that now has nukes. And in all likelihood, Siberia will not be holding on to them because it is not anywhere in the immediate future, at least, going to have the budget capacity to maintain a nuclear arsenal, just as Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and Belarus were not. And even shrunken, broken down Russia itself might not exactly be holding on to thousands of nukes on its own. We'll get to that in a second. So then, in terms of handing off and receiving, and then either storing or disposing of them, who actually would be able to do it, and also who is trusted by both or either sides. Obviously, the US comes up first as the other predominant nuclear power and de facto leader of NATO. China comes up in Siberia's case just because of proximity. Due to sheer proximity to some of the regions, Finland and Poland come up. Any retrieved by them from Murmansk, Karelia, and Kaliningrad would then most likely be handed off to either the US, Britain, or France. Over in the East, because of proximity and also overall reverence for the power of and distaste towards nuclear weapons, and thus more likely to dismantle them than not, would potentially even be Japan. And then leaning on the scales the other way on Russia's trust list, there's India and Turkey. And then you run through the options and reasons and rationality. And in the case of Siberia, and also in more likelihood than you might think, shrunken, broken Russia, whereas before in Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan's case, it was for security promises. And in this case, it would kind of be, at least in the case of Siberia. However, there would also be a lot more attached on as well. There would/will very likely be economic terms attached, because in the aftermath of all of this, both are going to kind of be economically desperate and broken. So, in the case of Siberia in particular, what you have is a list of options. They could give away most of the nukes left on their territory, enormous financial compensation included, and use the money to maintain some of them. Just as a deterrent measure, they could hand off all of them, primarily most likely to the US through Alaska, for both direct economic compensation and assistance maintaining their Arctic oil industry, as well as the key add on most likely being joined into quote unquote NATO Plus, which is the general catch all term for the enormous array of countries that are under the US guaranteed security umbrella. Or they could hand off all to and take a security guarantee agreement from China. That wouldn't be the wisest choice exactly. Or option four, they could just hold on to all of them and inevitably fail to maintain most of them. In the case of actual shrunken, broken in more ways than one Russia, potential handoff would come with quite a number of caveats. The first and most likely one being on the condition of immediate exemption from any and all war payment reparations, then the equally obvious removal of all sanctions on Russia and proceeding economic reintegration into the global community. The, as I implied, ever likely cold hard cash or direct money payments, direct economic infusion, as well as economic and industrial aid and assistance, particularly as a benefit for Russia, but also in part for maintaining the total global energy supply availability, immediate inflow and assistance with maintaining their oil and gas industry. And with that, that's about it for this one. So thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. PayPal and Patreon are down there if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. And have hundreds of other episodes about all kinds of issues and topics you can listen to if you want. We'll subscribe to my cat's channel as well. And may God bless and protect all of you, and I will see you all around next time.